Hello everyone and welcome to the studio, which by the way is just a green screen behind me and nothing more than that. So, today we'll be talking about Yamaha's latest offering, the FZX. Let's just start with what we have our eyes on first, which is the looks department. It has got that nice retro look in it, and in this gloss blue paint scheme with beige color seat finish, it just looks so appealing to the eye. I also really like the way they have shaped the headlamps and indulged those LED DRLs into it. You have a large black plastic part with a few exposed bolts on it flowing at the center, which I'm not a huge fan of. Feels like quality is going a bit down over, but looks are completely subjective. You may have a different opinion and I completely respect it. So now let's move on to a few technical stuff, and starting off with the engine. It gets a 149cc single cylinder engine which makes out a maximum power of 12.2 bhp at 7250 rpm and a maximum torque of 13.3 Nm at 5500 rpm. Not at all interesting figures on paper, and by the way this is the same engine that we have already seen on the Yamaha's FZS. So if you have ridden that motorcycle, you'll have a rough idea about how this bike will perform. Obviously, slight difference on weight and few things might be different.
It's an air-cooled fuel-injected engine and is mated to a 5-speed gearbox.
So, we are done with the engine and now let's move on towards the brakes. You get a 282mm disc at front and a 220mm disc at the rear. It also gets a single channel ABS as standard, which should and actually is sort of mandatory. Talking about the tires, and we have a 17-inch alloys at both front and rear, a 100/80 section at front and a 140/60 section at the rear. And yes, these are tubeless tires. Now, let's just bounce ourselves onto those suspensions. We have a telescopic fork at front and a 7-step adjustable monocross at the rear. Talking about the dimensions, and we get a 165mm of ground clearance with 810mm of seat height, which isn't much, so most of you guys should see their feet touching firmly on the ground. Everything that we have seen so far, except the front suspension and ground clearance, is exactly the same as that on the FZS. So alag kya hai? Sirf design? No. This is where these bikes start differentiating themselves. And at first, we have the display. It's an all-new full digital negative LCD display, which doesn't look quite big on the video, but in person, you'll actually find it to be quite huge. Provides you ample of info and also gets Bluetooth connectivity. Display is quite functional and easily readable under direct sunlight. Now, let's talk about the other stuff that we have over here. It gets a small 10-liter fuel tank, which is 3 liters less than that on the FZS.
Capable of producing a mileage anywhere around 40 to 45 kmph. We get an all-LED headlamps and tail lamp setup, but the indicators are still halogen.
Then we have these switches which are sort of okay when it comes to quality. We have a wet multi-plate clutch just like that on the FZS. It also has a USB charging port and a side stand engine cutoff. Also, this bike weighs more than the FZS. With 139 kilos of curb weight, it's 4 kilos heavy than its sibling. So looking at the sheet of paper, I can clearly say that FZX is nothing but an FZS with completely new design and a few new elements which adds up to its retro appeal. So, let's just pack things up on the studio and see how this bike actually rides on Indian roads.
So here we have the FZX keys and we have the bike for a short ride. So let's see how this bike feels. Seat is quite comfortable. Foot pegs are quite centered, and the handlebars also single piece handlebars set towards the rider, so reach shouldn't be an issue for the short riders as well. Let's see how it feels to ride this motorcycle. And kill switch, no need to press the clutch, and sounds really amazing. So let's get going. Okay, seating is quite comfortable. Wow, it sounds really well. And it's actually quite light, so it's easy to maneuver in traffic. Brakes are smooth as well. We have single channel ABS on this bike. Mirrors are quite wide and functional, unlike other motorcycles whose mirrors just look good but doesn't function that much. Okay, the pickup is nice. I can feel a bit of vibrations creeping in on foot pegs at 6000 RPM. Yeah, at 6000 RPM the foot pegs are vibrating a bit, but handlebars, no issue, even at 6000 RPM. This bike is actually really wide enough. It feels like a bulky motorcycle that you are riding. Turning radius isn't an issue. Wow, this bike really sounds well. Seating is actually quite comfortable. The seats are wide enough and amount of cushion is really good. Okay, let's see if we can saddle on this bike. Okay, yeah, but knees are quite cramped. It isn't comfortable to saddle on this bike. Obviously it isn't made to saddle, but still, if you are planning to take this bike on a long ride, saddling wouldn't be that easy. Wind blast is coming right at my chest level. It isn't on my helmet, so long rides shouldn't be an issue on this bike. You're sitting quite upright, so backache shouldn't be there. Okay, brakes are quite responsive. If you press them hard, then the feedback is good. Unlike other ABS systems, which softens the brake even after hard pressing, this isn't like that. Horn is a bit okay. It could have been better. Also, you have this switch which will lower the intensity of your LEDs. Ooh, okay, this will actually activate your high beam. If this isn't on, then your LED DRLs would be active. Even after pressing this button, your high beam is off. For using high beam, you have to switch it to this, and then your high beam will be active. It's quite of a ride. I really enjoyed this motorcycle, unlike other 160s. This was my first drive and the bike has impressed me quite a lot.
Now, all that said, we are left with just one small point, which is the pricing. We have two separate variants. First is a standard one, which costs about 1,17,539 rupees ex-showroom Navi Mumbai. And the other, which is the Bluetooth variant, will cost you about 1,20,539 rupees. Ouch! Yamaha, that really hurts. You see, that's where this bike starts fading out. According to me, it's priced slightly higher, and the sale figures for this bike might soon become an endangered species because of its very own sibling, which provides you almost everything the same and will cost you about 8,000 rupees less. FZS seems to be making most sense to me now. And I'm not even talking about the other bikes in this price range, who although might miss out on few modern tech, but definitely produces better power and torque figures. So, for a moment, let's just keep these things aside and look at this bike. Definitely looks gorgeous from every angle and has that nice retro feel in it. It's also equipped with all the modern tech. The seat comfort is really good and long distance touring can easily be done on this motorcycle. But then again, we also have the Hero's Xpulse 200T if we are looking for the same retro design, which comparatively makes more power and torque. Yeah, weighs slightly more as well, but power to weight ratio is again better on the Xpulse 200T. According to me, it also has more appealing retro look and also gets almost the same features, with the pricing again nearly the same. So to conclude this, what we have seen so far is Yamaha's FZ is nothing but a retro FZS which looks really great and does its job absolutely well. But due to its pricing, it finds itself quite cramped among some of the bigger motorcycles and in fact might get stabbed from its very own sibling, the FZS. Thank you so much for watching this video. Do hit that like button, share this with your friends and stay subscribed for more quality automotive content.